All right, folks, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome to the Late Show. Good evening, folks. Welcome into a late night edition of the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with you folks tonight after a couple of days off as college athletic announcing season for me gets underway. But good evening, folks, alongside Crystal Thomas joining us outside of Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles, California, following tonight's late night contest, and Tanisha Stewart also up in LA. Cal McClure joining you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Shorty and Crystal, good to see you guys again, and glad to be back to work here this evening after a pretty long weekend for me. We'll get to that probably later on. If not, who cares? Other than that, guys, how is it rolling tonight? Good to see you guys.
Hey, I might say what a lot because I'm outside, so bear with me, y'all.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back on the show. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their Labor Day weekend, and I'm ready to get into game action.
Well, Shorty, I would like to say I did, but I announced 12 volleyball games in 2 days and had no voice over the weekend. So I kind of begged to differ, but I got over it and was able to do a college soccer game without any problems today. But with that, though, folks, Facebook and Twitter and live chat box are both open for you folks. So hit us up over on Facebook at facebook.com/WNBA365 or hit us up on Twitter at WNBA365, at Calimac3, at ShortyMamba24, or at Pup1010 with the hashtag WNBA365. Or if you are viewing us live tonight, folks, be sure to hit up our live chat box with your questions, comments, or concerns when we have a break in the action. And of course, folks, we again are switching up our question of the night poll question. We're gonna try to work in a little bit of some network trivia, see how well you folks I guess kind of know us. But the first question, at least for tonight, of course, and I actually have it pulled up over on my on my laptop over here, was it involves me tonight. So the question being, before I started hosting this network or before I got my degree, I did play and was a pretty good baseball player in my time. So the question I think, folks, which college program and which Major League Baseball team both recruited and scouted me when I was in high school? You have your choice of either the University of San Diego and the Padres. You have the University of Washington and the Seattle Mariners. You also have Cal State Fullerton and the Angels, or Creighton University and the Chicago White Sox. Those are your four options, and we will read results for the poll question tonight later on in our program this evening. With that, Shorty and Crystal, 3 games tonight on the program, and all 3 very, very close encounters tonight. First and foremost, Atlanta wins on home court over the Phoenix Mercury this evening by the final score of 91-87. Final box for Phoenix: Diana Taurasi, 23 points, Brittany Griner with 21, Candice Dupree with 19, Dewana Bonner with 10, Penny Taylor with 8, Lindsey Harding with 6, Marta Chagre, Kelsey Bone, and Misty Bass all held scoreless tonight. Alex Harden, Izzy Harrison, and Sonja Petrovic, no points in the loss for Phoenix. For the Atlanta Dream, Angel McCoughtry, 27 points, Bria Holmes with 18, Tip Hayes with 14, Elizabeth Williams with 12, Lasia Clarendon with 8, Mattia Ajvan with 6, Sancho Little with 4, Rachel Holloway 2 points, Marquisha Galling no points in 6 minutes played, Carla Cortijo, Rishana Gray, Megan Simmons all DNPs tonight. Coach's decision. The game played from Phillips Arena in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. Total attendance this evening, 3,628. Time of the game, 1 hour and 56 minutes. The officials tonight were Maj Forsberg, Isaac Barnett, and Tony Dawkins. No text to report. 1 lead change in 1 time tonight. The game was tied. And Shorty, for the most part, again, starting with Phoenix, again, which probably, I think, Shorty, took a pretty damaging loss tonight. With right now, they're very, very dwindling and very, very microscopic playoff hopes right now for the 2016 campaign. How they were, again, able to rally back. They made it a 1-point game in the fourth quarter. But again, just still, though, a lot of problems for Phoenix in the game. While they didn't get 44 combined points from Taurasi and Griner, they also combined for 9 turnovers in this game, a team high, or 15 turnovers in the game for Phoenix. Griner with a team high 5 turnovers in the game. So, Shorty, we talked so much, I think, about the Mercury and their woes this entire season. Shorty, overall thoughts, again, I guess, about Phoenix to get the discussion flowing. Again, about both the Mercury's rough stretch again with this loss, but also again how once again, Shorty, there actually is no bench production once more from this Phoenix team. Overall thoughts are what?
I mean, when it comes to the Mercury, I mean, it's been just a seesaw season for them overall. I mean, they came, I'd say not into the break, but after the break, on a hot streak, getting good wins. especially, their good close win against LA. But then since they hit their road trip, they've been off ever since. And it definitely played out again in this game. I mean, they were completely, I mean, I wouldn't say off fully overall because they shot a good field goal percentage of 43%. They shot 38% from 38% from three and 91% from the free throw line. It's just that when it came to the final minutes and time for each of the players to step up, I was assuming that DT would be that player to step up, but she actually deferred in the final minutes to the other players. And when she doesn't take the final shot with us time running down, that spells trouble for the Mercury, and definitely did in this game. I mean, when it was time for her to step up, she actually deferred to Dupree, who took the ill-advised three, which is not her range, and ultimately they didn't get a good shot off, and then came down a great and one play from Tiffany Hayes, and that led them to victory overall. But it's just been a seesaw season for Phoenix, and now they're down at seventh place in seventh seed. So they're not out of the trenches yet. They're still battling to try to hold on to a playoff spot in the race.
By the way, folks, I want to let you folks know that right now I'm working out some problems a little bit. I'm actually streaming the show live on my desktop computer, which I normally would look at for the box and for the chat box. So if you see my picture freeze a bit, it's only because I'm working this out, seeing how it goes. For the folks, over to the laptop real quick, and some comments in the chat box real quick from Todd Mintz, who said, but Shorty just touched on this, guys, with the Mercury. Now with that loss being tied in the loss column for the final playoff spots, it is now serious that they do not make it at all. No defense whatsoever, 53% shooting for the Dream. They led wire to wire in this game, and also brings up that Angel seems to have worked out issues with Coach Michael Cooper by his stance being more, with her being more involved in timeouts. And Crystal, I know that we have really talked about Phoenix a lot this season, about more so what Todd also said though as well, Katie, their defensive lapses, and they have really come back to bite them in the backside numerous upon numerous times this season. And you're not going to win a lot of games, any sport, any level, Crystal, by digging yourself big holes early in games, and you just can't keep doing that night in and night out, where you go out there and just on the struggle bus. And again, Crystal, like I said, no points off the bench tonight for the most part, out of three players, again, out of both Chagre, Bone, and Bass, again, not scoring tonight off the bench. Harding had 6 to chip in. So 6 points off the bench, Crystal. I know how big of an asset that is in your mind. Crystal, overall thoughts on this pretty stinging loss for the Mercury here tonight against Atlanta?
Unfortunately, I can't say much because I if anybody knows how LA traffic is, I was gone. I was driving to Staples by the time that game was actually running. But I mean, from what I've been listening to, if they only scored 6 points off the bench, and they were destined to lose. I mean, you can't win games like that. You're not going to do anything like that. And Phoenix, like Todd said, their defensive lapses are half of the main reason on why they are, what was it, tied for the last place spot or something like that? I have a hard time hearing because I'm out here. But, I mean, I'm not surprised that they lost, especially to an Atlanta team at home. Atlanta is amazing at home. You're not beating them when they're at home.
And again, folks, Crystal joining us outside or joining us at Microsoft Square in downtown LA, across the street from the Sports Entertainment Center of the World, aka Staples Center in downtown LA. In regards to the Dream, Todd also says real quick, every time Atlanta led by 6 or 8 and Phoenix was down, got to within 1 or 2 or 3 points, Hayes, Holmes, Williams, and Angel had answers. Atlanta won it with 10 more shot attempts and more makes as well. And Shorty, Atlanta's case, it seems like they have been somewhat of a, I think we see this a lot though, Shorty, too, in many cases though, of where a team is better at home than they are on the road, where in some cases, Shorty, it's vice versa for teams where they're better away from home as opposed to being at home. And again, Atlanta tonight showed why that they've been a pretty consistent, for the most part, somewhat consistent home team so far this season. Again, a 91-87 victory. And again, I agree though with Todd though as well, Shorty, that it seems like Angel and Michael Cooper are finally on that same page. Because again, we sometimes see disconnect between head coaches and players, and sometimes more so college level. Sometimes there's disconnect of course, we know what kind of has gone on with the Fever, sadly. But I guess, Shorty, overall takeaway, I guess, from Atlanta's side of the story with their win tonight over Phoenix in your mind.
Yeah, when it comes to somewhat of the relationship between Angel and Cooper, I mean, it's subjective. I mean, sometimes you see them on the floor, especially in games like this when they pull out a win. You can see they're much more easier going with each other. But when it comes to losses, I mean, it's somewhat of a different story. So I wouldn't just specifically, pinpoint this game and basically base their relationship on just one game because it's up and down. Like I said, when they win, they seem to be all right. When the team is struggling or when they lose, it goes into a different direction. But overall, I mean, it was definitely a good win for the Dream. And as KT, brought up, they seem to be definitely, be one of the teams to take care of business at home, and they definitely did in this game. Got off to a 27-20, first quarter start. Pretty good for them. All while in the second quarter, though, it was pretty much even between the both teams, only scoring 15 and 14 for the Merc and Dream alike, but it seems like in the second half they definitely picked up the intensity, even though it was still close. It was still, the Dream picked up the intensity. I mean, 27 and 8 from McCautry. She definitely brought it. 18 and 6 for Holmes. 12 and 5 for Williams. 14 and 3 for Hayes. So they definitely, brought it in this game. And especially that final last second play by Hayes. She just really put it on the deck, and it was against Brittany Griner as well. She hit that and one against Griner, and we all know about Hayes. She's never afraid to challenge anyone, big or small. And she took it to Griner, got that play, and ultimately pulled out a win for the Dream.
By the way, Shorty, Todd writes in again saying he agrees with you about Angel and her attitude. He does, though, say that her attitude is much better with everyone. She acts interested now. Olympics made a difference perhaps in her attitude, but Shorty is right. Marion Meadows had issues with her. I don't base it on one game. It has been since the break. So Shorty, you and Todd are on equal terms with that one. But I guess, Crystal, again, and Shorty is right, though, in some instances, though, about how Atlanta has been somewhat of one of those roller coaster emotion teams where they're up one day, down the next day, or down for a bit, then they come back up. So, it's kind of hard to kind of judge their book so far for how you would write their story for 2016. But again, they get a pretty big win over, again, a pretty, shaky up and down Phoenix team. But again, good though, again, that McCautry leads away 27 points. Holmes has 18. Again, sort of making her presence known now in the starting five for ATL. Crystal, overall final takeaway from the Dreams victory on their side of the story, at least in your mind.
Well, first I want to apologize for being on mute there. Chelsea Gray walked out, so I was congratulating her in her 20-point game. And second, I heard you say something about McCautry, but I can barely hear it out here. Can you please repeat?
More so, again, wanting to touch base about how her demeanor has changed a bit towards Michael Cooper, how she's been what seems like to be more engaged with everything with the team.
I'm sorry. Y'all gonna hate me. Please, I'm sorry. Please repeat that one more time.
More so, again, we're more so asking about Angel again and how her demeanor has seemed to have changed from the Olympic break. Again, being more involved, more interested with Michael Cooper on the sidelines.
I'm so sorry. I got you that time. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, you know what? I think the Olympic break for a lot of people gave people more confidence as these cars go by, so you guys can hear me. I think the Olympic break gave a lot of people more confidence. I mean, we've noticed EDD playing, great. We noticed Maya Moore, even though Maya Moore always plays excellent. We noticed Diana Taurasi playing phenomenal, and then we've even noticed, Brittany Griner somewhat came out playing a little bit better. I think the Olympic break, it really gives people confidence. They're one of the best 11, 12 women in the world, and they made Team USA. So I think that is why we see such a change in I'm sorry, I got tongue tied. In Angel, I just think that right there says it all. I mean, if you can play in the Olympics, you can play anywhere. You're playing against the best teams in the world, and you can come back to the league and have that translate for the better. So I think that is why we're seeing McCautry play so well.
Again, folks, final score of the night in Atlanta, Dream 91, Mercury 87, a final score there. Next game up, guys, Indy and San Antonio in a grind-out, dragged-out matchup from the Lone Star State Fever get the victory over the Stars, 71-69, a final score this evening from the AT&T Center. Final box for the Fever this evening, Kaiser 15 points, Coleman, January, and Johnson all with 12 points each. Orlando Larkins with 8, Tiffany Mitchell with 7, and Erica Wheeler with 4. Tamika Catchings with 1 point tonight, only in 21 minutes played, with 1 free throw in the ball game. Seating Devereux Peters, Jeanette Poland, Natalie Achama, no points, and some scattering of minutes played. And Maggie Lucas, of course, DNP out for the year, of course, with her injured ACL. For the San Antonio Stars, Mariah Jefferson, 17 points, Astu Nador, 15 points, Mo Curry with 9, Jasmine Guathme with 7, Haley Peters with 6, Vicky Bogg and Sydney Colson also with 6 each, Jana Pelmarinelli with 3, Whitney Knight with no points, got 1 minute of action in this evening. Avery Warley Talbert signed earlier in the day, no points, 3 minutes played. Kayla Alexander, no points, was held out, coach's decision. Derricka Hamby out as well with Alex Montgomery this evening, and also out was Kayla McBride, again out for the year, of course, with her injured foot. The game played from the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. The official attendance today, 5,838. Time of the game, 2 hours and 6 minutes. The officials tonight were Kurt Walker, Tiara Cruz, and Carlene Tobin. No text in the game. 9 different lead changes and 14 times the game was tied in this matchup. In Shorty, I know that we also kind of talked a lot about San Antonio this season. This was a game of Shorty that I believe was very, very winnable for them at the very end of the game until the Fever went ahead late in this one. A very, kind of drag-out, grind-out game for both teams. Both teams really struggling and scuffling, shooting the ball. Both teams at or near 40% from the field tonight, and both teams at or below 22% in the game shooting the 3 ball. But Shorty, overall final takeaway from the Fever and Stars in your mind?
When it comes to the Fever and Stars, I mean, I definitely agree with you. This, could have been a winnable game for the Stars, because, again, the Fever, since starting the second half, they haven't really been consistent either. And this goes back to, the first half. So, and we also have to remember, even with the Stars, Wolves, who are now mathematically eliminated out of playoff contention, still they're one of the top 4 or 5 teams in defensive rating. So they're always going to bring that defense, and it definitely wasn't, any different, today. The Stars shot, 40% from the field, 100% from the free throw line. It's just that, that last play, basically that and one, if I'm not mistaken, either and one or either just a regular foul, when Breon January was going up, for a layup, that pretty much sealed the victory for the Fever. But it was a close game nevertheless, and they had to pretty much drag out this win for the Fever to pull it out.
Crystal, this is by far one of those, just grind out, mentally taxing games, of course, where it goes down to the wire. Todd Mintz was right, though, in regards to some stats from the game real quick, guys. He throws it out real quick. He says Indy only scores 10 baskets in the first half. The Stars had 13. He says only Jefferson really made this worth watching in his mind. He also did say, Shorty, to clean up on your aisle real quick. He said, though, it was right. 2-shot foul with 2.1 left that January forced on Appel and Nelly. But nonetheless, though, Crystal, of course, this is one of those games naturally that you have to just grind out to the very end. Of course, 71-69 again, final score for the Fever. I guess. Crystal, tough game to probably watch in regards to the final box being pretty rough for both teams. I guess overall final takeaway from you was what?
I was looking at the updates of that game. Somebody was actually texting me the updates while I was at the game, and at one point, I think San Antonio was actually, in the game. They were doing well. I mean, looking at the score, it was like 71-69, so it was a really close game. It lets you know that San Antonio is probably missing a lot of pieces. I mean, they have things there. Maybe the coaching change will help them, maybe not, we don't know, but that just shows you either how tough San Antonio is or how bad Indy is struggling. I mean, it's hard to tell with these two teams. I mean, Indy barely got the win. They're barely squeaking onto that playoff spot that they have, and they're working hard at this point. So I think you have to give San Antonio some credit. obviously for staying in it, but ultimately Indiana was able to pull it off.
And a very grind out, drag out game, fever over the Stars, 71-69. Final game of the night, guys, was round 3, the battle for first place of who would become the WNBA's overall #1 seed. And for the second time this year, the Lynx defeat the Sparks in Los Angeles in a very close contested game once more between the two heavyweights. Lynx 77, Los Angeles 74. Another thrilling matchup from downtown LA this evening. Final box for the Minnesota Lynx tonight. Sylvia Fowles, 21 points. Maya Moore with 20. Lindsay Whalen with 10. Simone Augustus with 8. Rebecca Brunson and Renee Montgomery with 6 points each. Gia Perkins with 4. Natasha Howard with 2. Janelle McCarville and Anna Cruz, no points each. And Keisha Hampton was a DNP. Coach's decision for the LA Sparks. Chelsea Gray leads the way off the bench, 20 points and a 17 and a three-quarter minute performance. Nneka Ogwumike, 19 points. Christy Tolliver, 11 points. Candace Parker with 10. Essence Carson with 6. Elena Beard and Janta Lavender, 3 points each off the bench. Beard starting the night. Sandrine Gruda, 2 points in 20 seconds played. Ana Davovic with no points. Evgenia Belikova, no points. Yelena Dublovic and On Waters, both DNPs. Coach's decision. The game played from the Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles, California. Total attendance tonight, 7,224. Time of the game, 2 hours and 8 minutes. The officials tonight were Byron Jarrett, Daryl Humphrey, and Jonathan Sterling. 1 take on the Sparks, 1 lead change, and 1 time. The game was tied this evening. Crystal, starting with you on this one. So obviously, 2 things to know here, folks, real quick, that both games in Los Angeles, again, between the Sparks and Lynx, were won by a combined total of 4 points. The Lynx winning the first matchup by 1 at the final buzzer and winning this one tonight by 3. So, Crystal, obviously, we're seeing, though, of course, that Minnesota has sort of made Staples Center their West Coast home with these wins in LA. But also, though, Crystal, I think, though, it is important to know again that both games that they won were not Lynx typical blowout fashion. Again, a 1-point ground-out win back in June, and now a 3-point win here tonight. But obviously, though, Crystal, still, though, Minnesota proving that they are still the team to beat and why they're still the defending WNBA champs, jumping out to a very big 26-18 lead after the first quarter. KT, you were there. Overall final takeaway from the game for Minnesota in your mind is what?
See, this is what happens when I try to do shows live. My camera bugging out on me. Everything's all close up. Anyway, yeah, I mean, from being there, it was pretty intense. You know, I was sitting next to 3 Lynx fans myself, so you could probably imagine how that went. It wasn't too bad. They were all pretty mature. But, yeah, I mean, it was just a very intense game. I mean, from start to finish, both of these teams just grinded it out. And, I mean, honestly, you would expect that for both of these teams who are trying to get the #1 spot. You would expect that for both of these teams who have a bye to the semifinals. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect nothing less. I'm happy I went. I'm not happy with the result, but I'm not too upset about it either. I mean, LA played hard. They fought back. Those 2 teams will meet again. Like, I guarantee it. This is not the end that we see of LA and Minnesota.
You know, Shorty, maybe for this year, maybe for next year, that now Minnesota will now become LA's big rival instead of it being Minnesota and Phoenix, of course, because, you know, those 3 games that Minnesota played with Phoenix were pretty much, you know, boat races. Where here we've had 2 of the 3 games, again, be decided by less than 3 points in some capacity. Again, LA losing the first game by 1, and the night losing by 3. Again, and also as well, Shorty, again, of how that matchup in Minneapolis, LA won by, I believe, 22 points. So that's an 18-point differential between games 1 in LA and the game 1 in Minneapolis. But again, Shorty, you know, Minnesota's still proving, though, that, you know, as a very wise man said, James Earl Jones, who voiced Darth Vader, said, all too easy. You know, not as strong, you know, you're not as strong as the Emperor thought in regards to LA being that way. Where LA, Shorty, still has not been able to prove yet that they can beat the Lynx on their home floor in LA, not in Target Center. But again, winning the home game here, again, they drop it by 3 points. So again, Shorty, it's another instance again of all too easy. Perhaps they're not as strong as the Lynx really thought, perhaps. So overall thought, Shorty, from the Lynx side at least of this game, again, winning by 3 in Staples tonight.
I mean, the Lynx did what they were supposed to do, and that was just come out and dominate. I mean, they definitely had a game plan, and even you heard part of their game plan in the huddle, you know, live on ESPN2, and what Cheryl Reeve just pretty much told the team. She said, trap Tolliver, you know, pick up on her, you know, not just in half court, but in the back court as well. And the Lynx did a great job of doing that. You know, they trapped Tolliver. frustrated her the entire night, wouldn't let her get a shot off. It took this game, and this in particular was one of the games in a while where Christy Tolliver legit came out as Lil Mopey. They got on her nerves that bad. You saw her visibly pouting, visibly, had her shoulders shrug in a funk. And that was due to the defense of the Lynx. They just came out and definitely they took it to her, and I was somewhat questioning Brian Agler as to why, when that was, shown that he didn't change up, the offensive schemes to try to get her open more, on cuts and things like that. There was just none of that. And then it didn't help that her teammates as well, followed suit. Well, everyone besides NECA, who still shot, 58% from the field. But Candace was another person that I was pretty much not too impressed with. I mean, she had 10, 8, and 7, but shot 3 of 11. And I'm like, in a big, gigantic matchup like this, you can't go missing one game. You can't go MIA, and that's exactly what Parker did. But props to the Lynx. They had a game plan. They came out, executed it to perfection, and they got LA off track, and they basically proved, as you talked about, why in this battle of the Titans, they came out victorious, and why they are still the team to beat. I mean, LA had a good season so far, but until they can prove in times like these that they can step up, I mean, they're not going to be taken seriously until then.
Wait, can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
I'll have to agree, but you know what, Shorty? I agree with the Brian Agler thing. I agree with him taking her out, and I also agree with you when you said he should have got her open. But there's a couple of fans that aren't too happy with him taking out Chrissy Tolliver, and I had to explain to them, like, look, Chrissy Tolliver's been playing so well this season. We haven't seen her out once this season until today, and we all know Chrissy Tolliver's a mental player. She beats herself up. She kind of gets in her own head, which is a result of today. And I honestly was like, it's a punishment. I mean, yeah, it's a big game, but she has to learn and has to teach herself that I can't do that. I have teammates out here. I can't get into my own head. I can't become a selfish player, because when she becomes a selfish player, she ultimately starts pounding her fists and throwing little Steph Curry hissy fits and everything. So I commend him for, not commend him, but I'm happy that he actually did take her out when he did, because he can see, as a coach, as a good coach, you can see what's irritating your player. That means you're paying attention. You can see early on that Chrissy Tolliver was starting to get kind of, as I like to call, a little peppered. I like to make that up. She started to get a little hot, a little seasoned out there. And honestly, I'm not mad that he took her out. I mean, I'd rather him take her out now, because we need her for Thursday. I'd rather him take her out now, let her not think about it, get it together, because there's another game coming up on Thursday.
Crystal, we'll stay with you and go to LA again. I know you pretty much just dove into pretty much part of your argument, perhaps, or about tonight. But again, I think though that if there's one maybe small positive, and I doubt it probably is going to be a positive, but LA did have only 8 turnovers though, but they were probably 8 turnovers though at probably the worst possible time. So again, they didn't step down from the challenge, of course, but again, it's another game though, guys. The second game, at least, where they played Minnesota, where the stars just seem to not shine brightly in regards to Parker having a rough night at the office, as did Tolliver, of course. Both of those players pretty much having combined for 21 points tonight on the evening. By far 2 games that they want to forget about in this instance. But again, I will say if there is one positive, I guess it is, though, that LA did chop down on the turnovers, though. However, there was times, though, guys, doesn't say on the chat box, they did, though, settle for too many outside jumpers in the game. They were not being aggressive in driving to the paint in this game. Crystal, give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts, Crystal, about LA's play again. Yes, they did, though, drop the game, but again, though, still, though, battling all the way to the final line, to the final buzzer and to the finish line of the game again, but ultimately, though, coming up short by 3. What is it, Crystal, and why?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I thought I was going to have like a Shorty A. Smith rant when I came out here, but because I'm actually in a pretty chipper mood, like I'm pretty cool, I will say, though, the driving to the basket was the thing that killed me. LA should not be, especially Candace. I'm sorry, guys. I know you guys are probably going to hit my mentions, but we do not want Candace shooting threes. No, that's not what she does. I hated how LA settled for the jump shot a lot. I mean, you have physical players, you have strong players, you have people like Candace Parker and Elena Beard who are so strong they could just go in and get the foul every time. I mean, I just hated how Candace would settle in for a little floater or a little jumper. Get big, Candace. Get big. I mean, you're 6'5". You're a post player. You're supposed to get in there. I mean, there was a point where she had Maya Moore on her heels, and we saw how that went. That went well. I mean, you got to get big. You can't play soft. You can't play like you're a guard. That's not what you're there for. We have a three-point shooter in Christy Tolliver. We have people like Chelsea Gray who can get hot and go in there. You can't do that. And I mean, I still love Candace. I'm not trying to criticize her, but not just her. I mean, everybody was jump shot happy. Everybody seemed like they were afraid to go in there. There was a time when Sylvia Fowles wasn't in the middle where they could have just sat there and possibly got any shot they wanted to. Because let's be real, Lindsay Whalen only had 10 points, and that's not a lot for Lindsay Whalen. I mean, if you could keep Lindsay Whalen to where she was, that's decent. Lindsay Whalen isn't as quick as she used to be, so if you could take her off the dribble and drive it in, go for it. That's a foul every time, but, you know, I'm not no coach, and I don't know nothing. So I'm just kind of, you know, speaking from what I was watching. But it was hard to watch at the point to where they just wanted to chuck up shots and jumpers. But once they started to get into the flow of the game, once they started to drive it in, especially Chelsea Gray, who had a tremendous game, that's when things started to work for them. I noticed when they were driving in the paint, they really couldn't be stopped. And I think they're going to take this game and look at this game and realize, hey, when we play against Minnesota or whoever, we got to keep going to the paint. I mean, that's our strong point. Yeah, we have a three-point shooter, but going in the paint, you got three amazing post players down there. That should be their strong point. That should be what they're trying to do.
Shorty, in my case, again, it's another instance of LA again coming up, too little, too late again. We saw that of how it happened, of course, with their first loss against the Lynx back in June again. It was a botched free throw and a overturned three-pointer at the buzzer that would have tied the game to send to overtime, but of course it did not count that night. So that was once. Then again, here tonight, yes, 8 turnovers, but again, though, they were still selling for too many outside shots again, and again, kind of digging themselves a pretty big hole. Todd does say, though, in regards to about Chris Tolliver, real quick, he does say she missed 3 or 4 shots from the outside of the corner. Agler was probably and most likely upset at that, perhaps. But I guess, Shorty, what is your final carryover and takeaway from LA's loss to the Lynx again here tonight on home court?
Yeah, well, I pretty much recently stated, but if there was one takeaway, from me, I would say I would at least give them props for, never quitting, never letting up. I mean, this could have been a game where, everyone out there could have been a little mopey and just stopped playing completely. But no, I mean, they were still battling, even though Parker was shot happy and not driving as much. She still continued to try to set things up for NECA. She had, I think a game high 7 assists. So again, she was still out there trying to make things happen. NECA was still, trying to get into the flow of things. And then you brought up Chelsea Gray, which was probably one of her best nights of the season, 20 points. So, I still commend them for, not, giving up. I mean, when Gray hit that 3, in the final seconds of the game, I thought, they were almost trying to pull a comeback, but it wasn't enough. But overall, I commend them for still, again, never giving up.
Yeah.
You have to realize at the end, it's when it's a little too late, and pretty much that came down to Los Angeles. If they would have did everything that they were supposed to do in the beginning, then they wouldn't have found themselves in a situation where they have to play catch up or, battle to the death, basketball in the final seconds. But they let, this game get somewhat out of control for them. And now they're officially in second seed and hopefully try to bounce back in their remaining 4 games.
By the way, what guys also would throw into that perhaps LA free throw shooting would probably need to be cleaned up as well. They shot 31. They shot 73.1% from the free throw line, 19 of 26. Minnesota guys not much better, 72.2% for both teams. So right at or below 73% for the free throws in the game tonight this evening. One quick comment from one of our good viewers from Irene St. Jude, who is saying, guys, we will start off with Shorty on this one about this question. Irene is asking at this point, Shorty, she's saying or asking, I wonder if Aguilar will play the bench in the last 4 games. They will be needed in the postseason. Shorty, what do you believe will happen, I guess, with LA in the last 4 games, already having one of the two, at least right now, having 2 locked up for the double bye to the semifinals at this point? Will we see more of the bench being played, I guess, in LA's final 4 remaining games against Atlanta, in Seattle on Sunday, and then the last 2 games with Phoenix and San Antonio in your mind? Yes or no, or why?
Yes, I think he should, and he needs to, because he needs to, figure out a set rotation, for the bench. In some games, in some spurts, some bench players, come out and they perform really well, and then other times they don't, and that's because they really don't have a set rotation for the bench. In some games, we have seen Dopovich and Gray in the doghouse, and it was just tonight that Gray actually, got out of the doghouse and was released for 20 points. So I do think he needs to play them, establish a second unit rotation, with them and with Lav, leading the way. And sadly for Lav, was only 1 of 6 in this game, not hitting normal shots that she usually, does, but he does need to set a regular second unit rotation.
I would agree. Again, Crystal, question again posed by Irene St. Jude. Again, she's asking or wondering out loud if Brian Aguilar will play the bench in the last 4 games. Crystal, what do you believe Brian does in your mind? What do you think and why?
I mean, Brian micromanages the game so much that it's so hard to tell. I mean, he's a good coach, don't get me wrong, but there's times where he just kind of does too much. So my guess will be yes and no. And what I mean by that is I think there'll be certain players he puts in, kind of like he did today, and then he's probably going to take them right out as soon as he puts them in there. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't think why he wouldn't. Like Shorty said, he has to figure out what's working right now at this point of the season. I mean, they already are in the semifinals, so they could probably work something out right now and fix it. But I think he should. I mean, he had a pretty good thing going for a little bit, and then he would take them out. And so I would say yes and no.
I would probably say, guys, at this point, I think I saw this a while back with Phoenix in 2013. Again, in 2013, how they rested Taurasi and Griner for the last 2 regular season games. So I'm sure it could be different. But I would probably say, though, I would probably speculate at least that Aguilar would at least elect to roll the dice and play the starters at least up until maybe next Tuesday's home game against Phoenix, and have them sit out perhaps for the whole game against Phoenix, and then probably keep them all out for the Friday game versus San Antonio. But again, folks, to recap the final 3 games tonight on the WNBA schedule once more: Atlanta over Phoenix, 91-87. The Fever over the Stars, 71-69. And the Lynx over the Sparks, 77-74, a final score. Christy Wilson, guys, chimes in to say, "Hey guys, what's up?" And she also agrees. Hey. She also agrees by saying, "I think the bench playing the bench would be a great idea for Los Angeles, perhaps." In her mind, looking at the standings real quick, folks, to kind of update you on the top 8 teams. Again, 8 teams, regardless of conference, qualify for the postseason picture. Minnesota, Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago are your top 4 seeds right now, followed up by Atlanta, Indiana, and Phoenix, and Seattle with the top 8. Outside looking in, Washington, Connecticut, and Dallas. And as Shorty mentioned, the Stars officially eliminated from 2016 playoff contention with their 6-23 record at this point. The top 8 teams can, folks, qualify, and with that, the Sparks and Lynx right now would have a 2-round bye to the equivalent of the former Western Conference Finals with their records and their standings at this point in time this season. With that, guys, some off-the-court news real quick to get to in regards to news that actually is in San Diego, and of course. Is in a way again in regards to the WNBA guys, but former Stanford great and of course WNBA great and WNBA champion guys Candace Wiggins announced today on Extra 1360 Fox Sports San Diego is going to be inducted into the Bob Breitbard Hall of Fame, the San Diego Hall of Champions, in February of next year. For her, of course, her excellence playing hoops here in San Diego, and of course for her career as well, alongside former San Diego Charger lineman Nick Hardwick, and also another person I did not catch the name of, but Shorty. I think, though, that as I think about this, and I know that obviously this, of course, hits home with me being in San Diego, and of course Wiggins playing her high school ball in San Diego, me knowing her for as long as I have, and to see one of my friends and someone that I've known for a long time, Shorty, being inducted into the San Diego Sports Hall of Fame down here in San Diego. I cannot be more happy and excited and for Candace and her family for this very good and very amazing opportunity about, a chance to really celebrate her career even more again by her being inducted into the San Diego Hall of Champions. I guess, Shorty, when you, I guess, kind of seeing this, I guess, with a WNBA household name being inducted into their sports, into their city sports Hall of Fame, I guess, Shorty, what's your overall takeaway about hearing the story again today, about Candace Wiggins being inducted into the San Diego Sports Hall of Fame here in San Diego in February of next year?
Well, I think it'll be a great thing for her, and I definitely think she deserves it. I mean, she had, a great college career at Stanford, and also, heading into the WNBA where she won a title with the Minnesota Lynx in 2011. So I definitely think she deserves it, and congratulations to Miss Candace Wiggins.
Crystal, I always say, it may be America's finest city in San Diego where I live, but of course, Crystal, it sadly is America's saddest sports city now with the Cavaliers winning the NBA title that San Diego has the longest professional sports championship drought dating back to 1963. But Crystal, the Bob Breitbart Hall of Fame, of course, is named after a former high school football star in Bob Breitbart, who used to own the San Diego Gulls team I work for now back in the 60s, and he built the San Diego Sports Arena, and he meant a lot to the San Diego sports community, and then he helped establish this Hall of Fame, and so many legendary names have gone in there, from prep sports and college kids to now pro athletes, and then to see Candace going into the Hall of Fame, I cannot, like I said, Chris, be more thrilled about this. But that San Diego, though, Crystal, in spite of how the city has lacked winning pro titles in sports, that San Diego, though, Crystal, can still produce top-notch talent in any professional sport. Crystal, overall thoughts again about seeing, both a WNBA household name, but also someone in my backyard, again, being inducted into the City Hall of Fame down here in San Diego next February.
I mean, that's a big thing. Anytime you get inducted to any Hall of Fame, whether it's your cities, the leagues. Can you guys hear me? There's cars. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Whether it's the city, the leagues, your high school. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, all the work that you put in to become a Hall of Fame in general, that's pretty awesome. And she had a really great Stanford career, really good high school career. And it's unfortunately, that she had to end her WNBA career early due to injury. But, I mean, I think everything she's getting, she deserves. She's a wonderful person, real cool chick. Never heard anything bad about her. So clap, clap, and praise hands emojis for her.
And folks, you can pretty much bank on it. If I'm not working, I will be there to see Wiggins get inducted into the San Diego Hall of Champions in February of next year. I have not gone full details. Real quick, at this point, Christy Wilson wanted to say, congrats to Candace Wiggins getting inducted. Getting inducted is very cool. Very happy to see that happen. But again, folks, we'll have more about that when we can. But again, Candace Wiggins being inducted into the San Diego Hall of Champions, the Breitbart Hall of Fame down here in America's finest city, but also America's saddest sports city, San Diego, California, February 2017 here in San Diego. With that, guys, 2 games on your WNBA schedule for Wednesday night, September the 7th, 2016. 2 games, guys, going as follows. The Storm and Liberty at 4 o'clock on both League Pass and MSG Plus, and then the Sky and Mystics on League Pass, Monumental in the U2. Short of beginning with the Storm and Libs. Who you got and why?
I'm going with the Liberty.
1 vote for the Lady Liberties to hold home court at MSG. KT, what about you?
I'm going with the song that Alicia Keys and Jay-Z made about New York, and I'm going to add that as them being the winner.
I will go with Frank Sinatra in New York, New York. Simple as that, Crystal. Could have kept it way simpler than that, but I'll gauge the Liberty as well. Next game, guys, on the Wednesday schedule, Sky and Styx from Verizon Center at 4 o'clock, Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern. Miss Mamba, who you got?
Well, Chicago has been riding a hot win streak so far, so I'm going with the Sky.
Shorty, going to go with the Sky on the road. Crystal, what about you?
I'm going with Chicago.
All right, so we're all going to be singing Frank Sinatra and eating Chicago-style pizza tomorrow with that. So we'll all take the Libs and Sky to win the 2 games tomorrow. But again, folks, Storm and Liberty at 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock on League Pass and MSG Plus, also at 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Sky and Mystics on League Pass, Monumental, and the U2. With that, Shorty, how about your overall final thoughts? Again, 3 very close games. The Lynx get back on top of the number 1 seed in the league. Shorty, final takeaway from tonight's games are what?
I think all the games actually came down to the final seconds or the final minute. They were all pretty good, including the Sparks Lynx game, who didn't play out in our favor, well, at least in my favor. But hopefully the Sparks come back and rebound from this.
I was going to say, Shorty, you wrote a story about the game and you picked the links. I don't know what you're talking about with this LA loss tonight. Crystal, your overall thoughts on both the two games that we played before, and of course the game that you were at tonight, of course the Sparks and Lynx hooking up for the third and final epic matchup of the 2016 regular season. What are your overall thoughts on the night's action?
Oh man, I don't know if I'm alive still. That game was. I mean, it was crazy, but it wasn't. I actually wasn't as panicky as I thought it would be. My fedora wasn't magical today, y'all. I'm sorry, I tried. But it was a cool game. I mean, it was like you said, LA fought back. They never really gave up. I mean, there was a point where you had certain players give up, but ultimately the team in general came together and worked together, and they almost figured it out, but not quite. It was a little bit too late. But like I said, this isn't the last time you're going to see these teams. You're going to see these teams again.
Stay here. They'll be back sometime soon. What do you got, Shorty?
No, I was just going to say, yes, I did write my game prediction story, and I was being, fair and objective. So I did pick the Lynx only because, in my mind, I don't recall a matchup where the Sparks have won at home against the Lynx. I think the last time, if I can recall, was 2014, possibly 2013. So I'm not sure, I don't recall when was the last time LA did, win against the Lynx at home. But I was holding out hope that they could at least pull out a win here. But sadly, my prediction came true.
Shorty, to clean up on aisle 24, it was last season when LA beat Minnesota by 25 on Breast Cancer Awareness Night, and Candace Parker's second home game back last season that they beat the Lynx at home, and of course did so at a neutral site with their playoff win last year in Game 2. But up until then, probably not. The last time was 2015 in the regular season when they did beat them pretty sound last year from Staples Center last season before the postseason took over, folks. We will now, folks, get to the right now final results of tonight's Twitter poll question. Again, it was more so a trivia question. Again, we're working these in along with both your input on certain subjects. But again, the trivia question again tonight was, again, before I became host of this program, before I got my degree and stuff. Again, I did play some baseball. I was okay, but I was a part of a few national title winning teams in a very good high school team for 3 years. But during that time, folks, I was both recruited to play college ball and scattered to play professional baseball. So the poll question results are in. So again, before the network began, I did play baseball. So which college program and which baseball team, of course, recruited me or scouted me to play? And the votes are in, and 8 votes tonight. But 62% of the votes, though, folks, were correct. I was recruited by Creighton University and scouted by the American League Chicago White Sox to play baseball. Other votes that came in, 25% picked the University of San Diego and the Padres, my hometown team, and 12% picked CSU Fullerton and the LA Angels of Anaheim, and no one picked the Mariners and the University of Washington. And for those people that voted correctly, congratulations, you get 2 thumbs up and raise the roof for getting it right. But it was both the Creighton Blue Jays and the Chicago White Sox getting that took the 2 looks at me to play college ball and play pro ball while I was still in high school. And I guess, Crystal, we'll kind of go to you on this one again before you wrap up again. I got 1 letter my whole time when I was playing, and I thought it was like, I felt grateful and still feel grateful for both this college program and this pro team that wanted to take a gamble on a guy that that already was having injury problems at such a young age in high school. But Crystal, you never forget, I guess, or you always will be grateful for whatever schools recruit you or send you stuff when you are going through high school and playing sports. But I guess, Crystal, I know it's probably tough for you, but I guess could you probably, describe that feeling, for anyone to be both either scouted by a professional sports team or even in this case being recruited, though, at the same time, too?
I hope you guys can hear me because I moved locations. I'm sorry. I mean, for you to have been scouted by both pro and college teams, I mean, unfortunately with women's basketball, you can't get scouted by a pro team unless you've been out of high school for 3 years. Little fun fact, just in case nobody knew. But for you to have been, to be looked at by both teams. That just lets you know how much work you put in. I mean, not everybody can say that they've been scouted by this or that. But the fact that you've been scouted by both college and pro team, Jesus, cars, I'm trying to talk here. The fact that you're able, then now a dryer's going off, the fact that you're able to say that you were scouted by both pro and college teams is a lot, and it's pretty spectacular. Finally got it out. Sorry for all the noise in the back.
You know, Shorty, I'll never forget the day where I actually got that letter in my at my house in my mailbox about, that, a school was looking at me. It was a scholarship for both broadcasting plus playing, Division I college ball in Omaha, Nebraska. And, it's like I felt grateful for the opportunity, but also like ungrateful because as soon as high school ended, I already had my mindset again if I was going to end my career, not play anymore, go and just strictly go into what I'm doing now in broadcasting. But I still felt grateful though, Shorty, for that opportunity again, that both a school and a pro team had some type of interest in, in a 6'4" second baseman who had, who already had bad ankles, dislocated kneecaps, plenty of times, a bad back, and by this time probably a banged up arm too from the year-round play. But I guess, Shorty, I know I think it's probably tough for you to probably, talk about this. But what would you say though about that feeling, I guess, of being both recruited to play college ball, but also then getting a shot the possibility to play professional ball too while you're still in and going through high school?
I definitely think, that's a big accomplishment, even though, things didn't play out, the way you wanted to. I mean, it's still big because not a lot of athletes, can say that they not only had, a college team, but a pro team as well, give them a look, so earlier on. So for you to, be able to at least be put in that position was definitely a big accomplishment, even though sadly, again, it didn't work out in your way, but still, it's good that you at least got some eyes, to scout you and check you out.
Shorty, it may not be sadly because I actually enjoy my day job and night job as opposed to being out there and playing a 162-game baseball schedule, playing minor league ball in a very, very small town somewhere, going to school right now and, forking out, stuff for student loan stuff, Shorty. I wouldn't say I'm sad. I am grateful, though, but, I always say, though, that there's days where I do miss playing, guys, and there's days like today where, I was just happy to go and announce a college soccer game and then come home and do this and then enjoy my free time when I can. But again, folks, thank you guys for playing our first trivia question of the week. I guess we'll try and work in more about that when we can. But again, for those of you it was Creighton University and the Chicago White Sox again that took a look at me in both when I was in high school for both college and also for pro ball. But again, folks, your 2-game schedule for Wednesday night. Again, back here 4:00 for both games Pacific time. Storm and Liberty and Sky and Mystics. With that, folks, back here tomorrow night, following the conclusion of the last game, probably at about 9:00 or 9:30. Till then, folks, for Crystal Thomas, somewhere outside of Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles, California, and for Tanisha Stewart, also up in Los Angeles, Cal McClurg from Studio 171 in San Diego. Signing off, folks. Until tomorrow night, have a safe night. Drive home safely. Thank you for stopping by and joining us, folks. And good night. This has been the WNBA 365 Network, folks. Take care and see you mañana. Good night. Bye-bye.